5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Live from New York and live from London.
Yeah, here we go.
Hello, folks. Thanks for joining in. Hello to the new people, and also hello to some of my friends and also graduates from the program out there. So what we're going to do over the next hour, maybe a little bit longer, is that we're going to cover the information that you need to be able to start to boost your immune system and safeguard your health. Now, my name is Roger Green. I've been the director of the Academy Healing Nutrition for over 30 years. It's a curriculum that pretty much started off in Sydney and has come to the last 15 years or so in New York, and in the last good couple of years now in London. And we run practical in-house training with the longevity diet. And we teach our students how to become their own doctor and take 100% responsibility for their health. So that's my background. The theme of this presentation, we will be drawing on concepts from Taoist medical herbalism and traditional Chinese medicine, and of course, all the natural substances that you can take, and Chinese herbal formulas and home remedies and all sorts of things. So that's what we're going to be covering. I'll hand it over to Patricia to introduce herself.
Yes, thank you, Roger. So hi guys, I know a couple of friends, alumni, students are here, so hi to all of you. And for those of you who we haven't met before, my name is Patricia, and I'm the director of Academy Healing Nutrition here in London. But before that, I actually was a student of Academy. I studied in Academy in New York back in 2015. And my reason for joining the course was because I really wanted, deep healing, in the sense that I was very upset with the way that the Western approach to my health had landed me in just taking tons and tons of medication. More specifically, I was suffering from chronic migraines and really, tied up in that approach of taking medication, masking the symptoms, not going to the root cause of the problem. And when I found Academy, I was, blown away by how much I could learn and how much I could connect to that inner healing potential. And basically, since graduating from Academy, I stopped taking medication, and I really transformed my health. And with that, when I moved to London 3 years ago in a completely different capacity, I was very moved to open our branch here and share this knowledge with others, because I believe it is so important. And especially now, it's a very it's a very unreal time right now. There is never been a more important time to realize not only how precious our health is, but how also we are truly able to support our health, and to really, using all the tips and tools that we're going to discuss today, that Roger's going to give in his, 30 plus years of experience in holistic health, how we can really use all those tips to find our inner healer and take charge of our own health. So yeah, I won't take up too much more time, but I'm just really grateful that you guys are here. I know a lot of us are in lockdown mode and unable to, carry on in life as we normally do. So it's really nice, even though I don't see everyone, I send everyone much love and gratitude for joining us and being live here with us, and for taking the time to learn something that's really important, not just now, but always. And yeah, I'll tell you more about our program here in London for those of you that are interested at the end of the presentation. It is starting this Saturday. But for now, I'm going to hand it over back to Roger, so he can tell you more about who we are, and then jump right into all the content. There's a lot of ground to cover. So thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. And we'll be hearing from you later. So the first part of this presentation, we're just going to get straight into covering this material. And as we've mentioned, we're going to be giving you the recording, and this presentation you're also going to be getting as a link in the email that we'll send you in about 24 hours. You'll be able to download this presentation with some of the detail, you know, you can read and have a good reference to it. But do take some notes. You know, per usual, I'm always going to be mentioning more, you know, aspects than what I had a chance to write down here in this presentation. And to begin with, a little disclaimer. Don't forget that this is for information only. It's not medical advice. And we're not treating or we're not diagnosing, as you know. And you always need to seek the advice of your physician or consult your healthcare providers. And none of these herbs and supplements and foods mentioned in this informational broadcast have been proven in clinical trials and are not FDA approved. And technically, as you know, with the COVID virus that we're going to be discussing over the next hour, that pretty much nothing has been proven in a clinical trial, but we're drawing on thousands and thousands of years here with traditional wisdom. And it's always interesting around these, you know, when these things happen in our society, that people start to reflect and question where they're at with their own, you know, spirit and health and where, you know, where society is at. And, you know, let's just take China, for instance. China actually started to get on top of this. As you know, their rates have started to decline. And nowhere in the media has there been mention of the Chinese hospitals over there working with, very strongly working with traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and Chinese herbs, big time. And the people in China are reverting back. This always happens in Asian countries, that whenever they get a cold or a flu, or, you know, they start to feel ill, they always, a lot of them will revert, first of all, back to their traditional medicines. We put on a tour to China last year. The Academy did a 2-week food as medicine tour. Thank God I did it last year. And it's really interesting going into a pharmacy in China, because it's actually full of, you know, traditional remedies and Chinese herbal formulas and so forth. So, yeah, let's get into it. Let me see if I can get to the next slide here. So as Patricia mentioned, we do have a 10-module training that's starting in London this weekend, and we also will be doing this in New York starting in October, so more of that later on. But the fact of the matter is the curriculum hasn't really had to change. We draw on these time-tested traditions of traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic, and also the Weston Price Foundation. Weston Price, pretty much you can trace back to his writings in the 1920s and 30s, where he visited cultures of longevity, and he academically wrote it all down, what these people were eating and their lifestyle, and how they reached well into the many cultures, many of the so-called blue zones, reaching into the age of over 100 and so forth. So I think that material was very, very important to draw on. I always call it the proof in the pudding, right? So we will be drawing on that material today as well. So let's just put everything into context. I'm not going to talk too much about what COVID is and where it came from. I would imagine that a lot of you have been exposed to various pieces of information. Some of it's speculative. I will touch on the conventional and the unconventional in the next couple of slides. I always think that's important to kind of hear both sides of the story. And we'll discuss, you know, who's vulnerable and what's, you know, some of the symptoms involved, and looking at it also in terms of Chinese medicine. I think that's very, very important. But ultimately, this presentation is about empowering you to understand how you can take control of your immune system and make it intelligent, adaptable, confident. And I love this word that I've used, confident, that you're, see, I feel very confident to go about and do my normal work and play here in New York. New York, as you currently know, is sort of semi-shut down. Pretty much a lot of the restaurants and hotels and bars and all of that have closed down. Some of the offices have closed down. It's pretty deserted out there on the streets of New York. But quite frankly, it doesn't really affect me directly here with my own personal sense of health and vitality. I personally, you know, with our students, in Module 1, we do discuss how important it is to look after your immune system every day, to do something every day for your immune system. So we're going to discuss some of these amazing herbs and natural substances, both from Western supplements and the traditional herbs, and how you can easily incorporate that into your day-to-day rituals around food and lifestyle, and it just becomes quite normal. And I've also said in my Module 1 training, where we're introducing students to the principles and guidelines of, you know, the longevity approach here. I've always said that, you know, we're going to be having superbugs, guys. And, you know, I've been saying that for decades, and some of them have shown up, you know, the swine flu and MERS, etc. And we'll look at some of those briefly. And, you know, there's real issues around here, like people's natural immunities are getting very, very poorly and very, very vulnerable. So we have to start to really take control of that. It's very interesting, perhaps in China, they've started to take control of that to a degree, with people starting to really take some of their, you know, going back to some of their traditional ways and eating better and starting to take some of their herbal formulas, you know, from their folklore medicine. That, of course, is never mentioned in the mainstream press. Let's move on. And as you know, there's a lot of fear, and you add that to the imagination, and you add that to anxiety, and that can really start to affect your immune system as well. So obviously, you've got to really start to think in a more positive way and get rid of the stress. And quite frankly, you're better off turning off the TV and not tapping into the mass hysteria that's going on. But obviously, you want to keep informed, and I know I do. And, you know, but quite frankly, guys, there's historically, there's been times, for instance, take the nurse, Nightingale, Patricia, what's her first name? The famous nurse in the First World War, treating everybody in tuberculosis, Florence Nightingale. And her famous words were, you know, it's because I don't have fear, I am not going to get the disease. And there's been many a philosopher who has said that over many, many years. Now, of course, you have to be cautious and do all the, you know, the right things. It's, of course, the common sense approach, you know, which we're not going to go over because you've heard it a million times now, you know, to wash your hands and so forth. And, you know, we're not going to be debating here with the social distancing is going to be working or not. Some of these things are controversial, but, you know, good on them, the authorities, for at least, you know, taking these pertinent steps to start to do something about it. But, the fact of the matter is that there is you know, historically we've had epidemics, pandemics in the past. We're surrounded by viruses all of the time. We've had a lot of these things coming into our society. And just for instance, you know, again in Module 1, I remind our students how, you know, statistics is what has, in a way, driven me for 40 years to get involved with natural medicine and to educate people around, you know, these horrific statistics in our society about 1 in 3 people getting cancer and heart disease and diabetes is off the chart. Over, 4,000 people dying a day of just diabetes. And, and of course, the regular cold and flu, as you know, every year kills tens of thousands of people. So I don't want to downplay it. I just want to put things into perspective and to create a bit of a context around all of this. Just some interesting figures here that you can look at. And, similar slide here. Now, what's interesting for us is that it does, obviously, as you've all heard, that, over 70-year-olds, and if you've already got, a compromised immune system, it pretty much is, most people are recovering pretty well. And the signs and symptoms are very, as you've all probably read, very, very similar to the cold and flu symptoms. And the virus is attaching to the lungs. And that's, of course, very, very significant for us in traditional Chinese medicine, which we will look at in a few more slides. Just to mention what they are doing in China, there's reports, and again, you don't hear it from the mass media. I'm very, very disappointed in the mass media. They should be taking this opportunity to be putting on documentaries about what you can do in your own home, about securing your own immunity, with things that are cost effective and in your garden and in the shop. And you can easily buy a lot of these things that we're going to be mentioning today. They're not hard to get. I'm surprised that the media is not taking this opportunity to really educate people around what they can do. It's like everybody's sitting around for Big Pharma to come up with another vaccine, with a toxic overload delivery system. So that's certainly not the direction that I'll be taking with this. In China, in the hospitals, they are very, very effectively using some mega doses of vitamin C. And you know this, you've heard this, with some of the common things that people do here when they get the flu is, to start to take some high doses of vitamin 3. Now, there's been some other traditional remedies that they've used in China. Some of them have been associated with the malaria. And we can look at some of those, and some of them are listed up here on this chart. Remember, you'll get this information so you can do your own research around this. Now, where did it come from? So obviously, we've been talking about, the sort of the appalling industrial animal farming techniques, since the beginning of the industrial age. And this is a bit of a wake-up call, that we really, really need to start to rethink that whole perspective of, industrial animal farming. And as you know, this pretty much the conventional idea here is that it has started from these so-called wild feedlots, which they have started to close down in China and other parts of Asia. I read that Vietnam has started to close down their farms. And it's the sort of the right environment for these viruses. And at any one time, medical researchers are researching over, over about 100 viruses. They actually don't have the resources to do much about it. There's about 10 to 20 that they focus on. And these viruses are, to a degree, always mutating. As you know, every year the flu virus does its thing, it mutates, and their last vaccine, it doesn't work anymore, so you're going to take another one, and so it just goes on and on and on around a circle. So, but a lot of these viruses have been initiated from, for instance, coming from cattle and pigs and dogs and so forth, right? Now, I've got made a little note here, you'll see it down here, develop regenerative agriculture permaculture and support organic farming. And just a little footnote, I would have liked to have got it in, but there's an incredible book from drawdown.org. Drawdown.org, O-R-G, drawdown, regenerative agricultural farming. And it's an incredible positive movement where they've done years of research, and they've put this in such a dynamic way. It's not getting bogged down in the negative, which we have a tendency to do with, you know, global warming and this virus. It's all about what we can actually do and how you can take current farming practice economically. You know, you can inspire a Kansas, you know, wheat farmer and, you know, putting all the glyphosate and Roundup and pesticides, and how you can take that farmer and move them towards an organic, value-added farming techniques where you're not plowing the ground anymore. You're not, you know, adding in all this pesticides and herbicides that is really affecting our food chain. So it's a wonderful movement, and I've been promoting permaculture, you know, for many decades. So it's definitely something that we need to support, and please read up on this. There's a fabulous book called Drawdown, how we can actually draw down the carbon using these regenerative agricultural practices that can really revolutionize our food chain. We have to think about going back to the actual core root of this problem, which is obviously our food chain and the soil, the whole aspect of our soil. As you know, it's totally demineralized and chemicalized now. So I highly recommend that. Please do your research. I also have a project called bloomthedesert.com. If anybody has time, you can look up that website, bloomthedesert.com. And I have been involved with helping to develop some agricultural natural products. There's another website called Jing, Jing.com. Moving on. So there's some unconventional ideas here that I'll discuss with you, which is very, very interesting because, you know, there are, you know, Wuhan is technically the most geared up city in China for the 5G. So every couple of 100 feet, there's you know, a broadcaster there, and like, you know, they're rolling this out. You can't do anything about it. Just like they've virtually rolled out all of the vaccines over the last couple of decades. You can't do anything about it, and now you have to. You know, like, it's like you're like, oh, and you know, there's an amazing book here. That's mentioned in the notes here. Let's have a look. Arthur Furstenberg and Pandemics to the Electrification of Mother Earth. So that's a book that you can look up. We'll just come back to the slide. And he has clearly correlated the electrification of planet Earth right back, you know, to the first radio waves, and then we had the radar waves. So we had the radio waves in the First World War, and then you had the, you know, the Spanish influenza, and then you had, you know, the Second World War with radar, and then you had, of course, you know, the internet and Wi-Fi and the 5G. So it's interesting to look at. We're not going to dwell on this. We are putting on another webinar next week with Letha Hadideh, Inga Bailenkina, and Paul Harris. And Paul Harris, as you know, is, you might know, but he's the inventor of the THERAPHI and the QUANTAPHI. And we can go into some of the more esoteric things around this issue, as well as some of the practical things, like Letha is the author of Karma Herbs and Asian Health Secrets, and Inga is an absolute expert in all the medicinal mushrooms. So it's going to be another interesting webinar. You will get a notification about that from joining up with this, and we'll let you know about the timing of that next Wednesday. So it's interesting to look into. You have to remember that we are electromagnetic beings first, and then we're chemical beings. And, you know, with these viruses, the way as you know, viruses, you might remember your biology class, you know, viruses are incredibly small, you know, much, much smaller than, bacterium. You might remember, you know, bacterium cannot see a virus. It's like a couple of thousand times smaller than a bacterium. And we need a microscope to see a bacterium. And these are generated out of, you know, mutated, you might remember RNA and DNA, you know, the cells spread them out. And technically they do start to become, you know, there's a good, you know, the microbiome, it's full of viruses and fungi and bacterium. That's, you know, we've probably got more viruses than anything else. I think we have. And there's a place for viruses in the scheme of things. They become signaling agents. Nature has this incredible communication, like the fungi do it brilliantly well. Trees communicate to each other. Just read The Secret Lives of, you know, Trees. It's a wonderful book. And viruses have a role to play where they start to signal that, hey, something's wrong, you know, something's getting mutated here, you know, watch out. So just like you get a pain in your arm, your attention comes to it and you start to rub it, or you might put a compress on it, you start to do something about it, then that's the same with viruses, that they are our messengers. They're on our side. You know, I don't believe in this warfare against germs and bacteria. I simply don't go there. Or just like I don't believe in the war against cancer. You know, it's the wrong spiritual attitude here. So interesting to take note that Wuhan is the most geared up city in China with the 5G. So you might have had this underlying, very unhygienic farming with these farm animals in the marketplace, and it is pretty scary stuff. And then with the intense, radioactive, well, it's not radioactive, but the signaling, the high intensity signaling from 5G might have started to trigger this. So that's speculation. Let's keep an open mind. Also, it's been associated. So you might say, well, hold on, Italy is way behind with 5G, and that's correct. But what is linking all of these cities up now is incredible poor air quality. And it's interesting to note that in that area of Italy, northern Italy, which is the most industrial part of Italy, we all love Italy, but you know, there's parts of it that are quite industrial. And before this virus hit them, they already had something like, you know, 14,000, well, they had, that's a figure from Iran, that they had 14,000 people hospitalized due to respiratory problems before this came. And it's a similar sort of thing in that part of Italy. They have a high input of respiratory problems. And of course, Wuhan, I've been to Wuhan 2 or 3 times in my travels to China over the last 20 years. And actually know some of the professors there at the university, wonderful friends, but incredibly beautiful city, but very polluted. So something to keep in mind, that this virus is attacking the respiratory problem system as well. Moving on, are we going to blame it on the bats? Well, just another little sideline here, that because of all the pesticides and the insecticides and so forth, we're actually losing our insect population. And there's a little story going around, it has been going around for years now, that have you noticed when you go driving in the countryside that, you know, in the good old days, you go driving every couple of hours, you'd stop for petrol and you'd always wash your windscreen, because there'll be lots of dead insects on the screen, right? Well, in the last 5 to 7 years, people have started to notice that that doesn't happen anymore. You know, when you're driving through, you know, the States or in Australia, we often go on 14-hour, car rides and driving. I drive around New Zealand, when I'm there, and it's happening a lot less. And that's, of course, going to be affecting our whole eco chain. It's affecting the health of the bats. They didn't have an immune system, perhaps, because of this. And, these viruses are then easily able to breed and mutate and all sorts of things. So it's all a holistic approach here, guys. Everything's interconnected, and there's things that we have to reflect on and seriously work on. Now, of course, here's a slide that we've got the modern diet, and a very, very acid diet, very toxic diet. In our training, we discussed this vital relationship between omega-3 and omega-6. Excess omega-6s, very, very inflammatory. Weston Price, he nailed that in the 1930s. That's one thing that he figured out with these cultures of longevity, with their use of high quality fats. And our training, a lot of nutritionists are catching up with what we've been doing for over 30 years now, where we've been saying that the low-fat diet is a joke. Not only is it a joke, but it's dangerous. You might have noticed with all the new rhetoric coming out that people are going, oh yes, in fact, traditional fats are a good idea and there's no correlation with heart disease and so forth. Well, guess what? All of that has really been propagated, and they should give credence to Weston Price and the beautiful Weston Price Foundation that does some incredible publications, and I take my hat off to them. And when I picked up that book about 40 odd years ago, I didn't put it down for 2 weeks. And I've been incorporating that ever since in the training. This relationship with fats and omega-3 and omega-6 is really, really important. This whole theme of vegetable oils and how disruptive they are to the cell membranes and triggering free radicals. So the Academy's training is about getting back to these time-tested traditional guidelines and principles. We avoid the high sugar, we avoid the high inflammatory foods. We avoid the lifestyle, the environmental stresses, the electromagnetic fields. We have to spend a bit more time on talking about that further down on the slide presentation here. And of course, the right mental attitude and spiritual approach to things is very, very important. Otherwise, your emotions just keep generating an acid condition, which breaks down your immune system. So all of it is a mind, body, and spirit. And this is a great wake-up call for people to reflect on that and to start doing something about it. So what can we do? Of course, manage your stress, get away from the freaked out, situations. All of this, guys, good music and nature and earthing again, and doing some nice breathing exercises, grounding yourself, getting away from negative people. We're going to be talking about some wonderful aromatherapy. We have a whole module called the Barefoot Doctor, where we discuss, home remedies and compresses. So we'll be talking about that. And we'll be getting into some more, foods and recipes. Not so much recipes, we don't have time, but we'll be definitely talking about foods and home remedies and tonic herbal formulas. And of course, in terms of your lifestyle, sleep and exercise and enjoying nature is very, very important. So what do we got here? Learn the longevity diet. Just more of the same. We do focus on digestion and assimilation and creating really good food choices. We are a non-dogmatic curriculum. We don't have any dogma in our curriculum, and I think it's very, very important to choose from all of the food groups and have a very, very diverse range of diet. And I think it's very, very important to understand your own individual makeup. In Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, we've got wonderful tools to start to gain your constitutional tendencies. I think that's very important. We eat a seasonal, nutrient-dense, wholesome diet. We're very much into ancient knowledge and Taoist energetics and understanding the energetics of foods, cooling, warming, and so forth. That's very, very important in terms of your immune system too, which we'll see. It's called the Wei Qi in Chinese medicine. We've been promoting fermented foods and their importance for decades, and now students really get to know how to make fermented foods in their own home. That's very, very cost effective. Very, very important to start with natural fermented foods rather than going on to supplements. That's for traveling and just complementing what you do in your kitchen with fermented foods. Very, very important because of the spectrum of nutrients involved. You're able to absorb fermented foods over a length of time, where if supplements are like a little bit more quick acting and so forth. Now, it's a place for supplements. We're going to be getting into supplements in this presentation. Moving on. Just again, putting things into context for you, the immune system. You can read up this slide in your own time. As you know, there's the so-called T cells and B cells, and you might have come across the NK cells. Really, really good to read up on. I've been reading up about that for decades. It's always good to revisit some of that biochemistry. We can move on. I just want to show you there's some good slides here just for your review in the immune system, because I really, really want to get into what you can do about this and how you can empower yourself with some of these foods. So this is like a little nice review for the immune system and how important it is, and how they, basically you've got to tune up, make that immune system adaptive, intelligent, and confident. And of course, the microbiome is very important. Those two aspects. Now, the microbiome, as you know from your studies, just some of the students listening, that it's pretty much 70% of your immune system. So vitally important to get that digestive energy working well and taking in those probiotics and fermented foods and strengthening the so-called hara, or the tandien, or the whole sort of digestive tract. It's the center of your power, it's the center of your immune system, it's the center of your mind-body connection. We're going to be talking about some practical things that you can do for that. And natural medicine and its place it can play. Now, so let's start with TCM. We have a concept in traditional Chinese medicine where we look at environmental effects. For instance, the effect of too much cold on the body, it makes the kidneys weak, or what we call it's the part of the 5-element theory. So we have these organ groups like water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. And we look at the vital energetics of these organs because they control things, they resonate with things, and so forth. And the environmental factors are called cold and wind and heat and damp and dryness. And this particular virus falls under, generally speaking, the wind, heat, a very cold, flu symptoms and so forth. But the information that's been coming out of China from professional Chinese medicine practitioners, and they've sent some of the best in the country to start to deal with this, is that they've noticed that, yes, it's this kind of wind heat, but it's more to do with the so-called damp. Damp congeals, and it's like, think of it as like a gluey, sticky environment. So when the lungs are already damp and gooey from undigested foods and our modern diet and all sorts of things can contribute to that. Things like poor quality dairy food and excess sugars and so forth. That the condition has this underlying stickiness, and then viruses can kind of stick there, and then they can start to breed and so forth. So their approach to this has been generally through these traditional Chinese medicine formulas that's treating these wind heat symptoms as well as this overriding dampness. So that's very, very interesting for us. These are considered invaders of the body. They sort of start to penetrate through our defense mechanisms, and they start to affect our meridian systems and our organs and so forth. And that's where the symptoms start to arise. There are some classic formulas that you can get. Now, a word of caution here. Now, you know, if you think you're just getting like a cold and a flu, you can, you know, these are the things that we take when we get a cold and a flu. But if you think your symptoms are a little bit more serious and you want to approach this through a traditional Chinese medicine, which I highly recommend, then I would suggest that you go to a practitioner. And because a practitioner will look at all the other dynamics and look at the tongue and the coating on the tongue and see how much dampness. Dampness will show up as like a more thick, white, usually white covering in this case. It's a little bit more cold damp that they're talking about. And other factors that are showing up, and they can start to make a formula that's appropriate for your condition. So I highly recommend that. But a lot of us, when we get sort of slight flu and cold symptoms, which quite frankly, I haven't had for decades. I can't remember I haven't missed a day of work for 35 years, and I haven't got sick. I get a slight little backache occasionally from all the flights I have to do. But generally in our community, in the natural medicine community, there's these known formulas. You can just walk into a Chinese herbal store and look for this. Now, what's interesting that's been coming out of China, of course, and we use this all the time, is astragalus. And I'm going to be talking a lot more about astragalus. And there it is, up in the background, the famous astragalus. We're going to be really looking into that. And beryllium has been coming up also, that they've started to use a lot in China, in the hospitals. A lot of the formulas that they're using is containing that. Now, another one straight off the shelf. Now, this is done by our dear friend, Ron Tiergarten, who set up dragonherbs.com, and probably some of the best high quality Taoist tonic herbal formulas. And this formula is not one of his own formula, but he's got the exclusive license to market this in the USA. This is a famous formula. This is the Western name, but this is a famous formula that everybody goes to in China when they get the cold and the flu and influenza and the COVID virus. They're going for this formula in China, and they've actually sold over 1 trillion units. Now, Ron has got the license for this. It's high quality, very, very good if you're getting any of these kind of symptoms. So we're basically going to be talking about two things: how to prevent those symptoms happening, how to keep your core strong, your immune system strong. So they're called the tonic herbs, and also the supplements and the foods. Now, just please note, if you are getting signs of flu and cold, you actually stop taking your tonic herbs that we're going to be mentioning, and you actually need to take some of these formulas that are geared up for dispelling the damp, for getting rid of the heat and the wind and the shakes and all of that out of the body. So when you do have a cold and a flu, you actually stop taking the tonic herbs. So there's tonic herbs, and then there's the so-called, therapeutic herbs. So keep that in mind. This formula here, we only use if we've got the colds and the flus, right? Symptoms. It's an excellent formula. Last time I looked, it was sold out, but I think they might have some coming in, and you can just check out the website. And basically you should have this in your home anyway. It's an incredible formula. I always take it traveling just in case I get a cold or a flu. I always end up giving it to my friends when I'm traveling. I'm always out of stock and having to stock up to give it away to people. Let's move on. And now, so a major lung tonic for us is Lo Hangua. And this is now known to you as monk fruit. You can sometimes use it as an alternative sweetener. It's excellent. It's low GI. Our students get to know Lo Hangua really, really well. Sometimes it's called sweet fruit. It moistens the lungs. It tonifies the lungs. Very, very good for strengthening the lungs. It doesn't cost much. You can find this. You can start to integrate it in all sorts of things. And there's one tea that you could begin with, just as a nice sort of mild tonic tea. And it's called Spring Dragon Tea. Again, this is from Ron Tiergarten's Dragon Herbs. And this tea is associated with Gynostema. And Gynostema has the genocides, which are just absolutely remarkable for the immune system. And the people living in China who took this Gynostema, it's a grass tea, who took it, they are technically the longest living people on the planet. It's just a small region of southwest China from memory. And they were famous for drinking this Gynostema tea. And they discovered that it has over 120 saponins, you know, these bioactive chemicals that's found in various herbs. It's phenomenal. It's a wonderful immune adaptogenic formula. And it's very, very pleasant to taste. It's got no caffeine in it. So I highly recommend that. And then, of course, you know, you can do your classic lemon and ginger. One of my rituals is always to get, you know, the night before, I get my lemons, my limes, and any sort of other citrus like grapefruit. I chop it up. I put it in some filtered, structured water, which I'll talk about later. I leave it overnight. And then the first thing you do in the morning is drink, you know, a lovely soluble vitamin C. You know, and it's very refreshing and alkalizing and good for the liver and dispersing toxins and all sorts of things. Very strengthening to the immune system. And of course, you know, sweet soups with lotus root helps to moisten the lungs. Lotus root has been a classic formula for any kind of a lung problem. And you take it anyway to strengthen the lungs. And in Chinese medicine, the lungs are part of the metal element. So pungent herbs and spices are very, very good, you know, garlic and ginger. Now, very, very important, I think, at this time to increase your aromatic herbs, you know, things like cumin and coriander and basil. And I might be able to give you a bit more of a list of that later. And things, of course, like turmeric. It's interesting to note, guys, that India, the country India, has not suffered much, you know, touch wood, from this virus. So it's very, very interesting to note. I think they have a pretty high immunity to these sort of things because it's a very, very interesting country. But they have a lot of spices in their food, which, as you know, are antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal. So at this time, it's very, very important to increase your consumption of those kind of dishes. Get them into your soup, saute your vegetables, you know, add them into various dishes. Very, very important to use that kind of pungent and aromatic herbs. I like to note that Letha, I don't think you can see her picture. I think my video, I wonder if Patricia can move my video away from the corner there. But anyway, she's the author of Karma Herbs. She's a faculty member and she does the blog for the Academy. And she has the honeysuckle flower, and that's kind of pretty well known amongst certain circles, of course, and it's all listed here. So that's used quite often for these kind of flu-like, lung-like conditions. And there's some, you know, the yin chow. You might have heard of those pills. They're very, very well known for flu and so forth. Chrysanthemum flower, Very, very good for kind of like that, calling the fevers and so forth. Combining the Cynthium with the honeysuckle, and Andrographis is a famous herb, very, very good. It's like the Indian echinacea. So they're very, very good herbs to take note of, perhaps get them from Chinatown. Again, you know, have them in your home remedies cupboard in the kitchen here. Now, two really important things that you should be doing. Yes, of course, we're going to be talking about your microbiome, but fundamentally, you need to be using the medicinal mushrooms every day. Now, the medicinal mushrooms are basically things like reishi and chaga and lion's mane, and you know, you can cook with the shiitake. You can even get this amazing extract, the AHCC extract from the shiitake, which is so they concentrate some of the active ingredients of the mushroom and very strong immune enhancers. Now, reishi is considered like the king, the apex of the medicinal mushroom world. So this is something if you're not doing it, like our students, they get this protocol right from the word go. If you want a confident immune system, you're going to have to start getting a minerally strong diet, work on your microbiome, strengthen your chi of the body, build your blood, but then bring in these very, very amazing medicinal mushrooms. Now, number one chemical, so to speak, that nourishes the immune system is called the beta-glucans, you know, and there's several of them. And the beta-glucans basically nourish the immune system. And the medicinal mushrooms have the polysaccharides. So imagine this: if you went to the local supplement store, you could just buy beta-glucan. So for instance, if you've got a neighbor who doesn't, you know, they're not going to change their diet, they're still going to be drinking their Coca-Cola, and you go, oh, well, at least please get some beta-glucan. It's a no-brainer. At least do that, because it's the number one thing for the immune system. But when you take it as a supplement form, it's really just quite a narrow spectrum. When you take it with reishi and chaga, you've got this incredible broad spectrum of them that just nourishes the immune system, makes it adaptive, intelligent, and confident. So this is something that you get into straight away. Don't muck around. I don't care where you're going to get it from. You know, you can get these medicinal mushrooms pretty much anywhere. Now you can get blends, and that's fine. The medicinal mushrooms, like other mushrooms, they work in synergy with each other. So start with the reishi. Very, very powerful. Get to know chaga. You can make lovely chaga coffee drinks. Get to know some of the other medicinal mushrooms. Start to cook with maitake is wonderful, and the shiitake. I don't care how you use them, cook with them, use them with tinctures, capsules, teas, coffees, but start driving them into the body. It's very, very important that you start to do that. The reason why I'm confident around these kind of issues, what's going on in our society at the moment, is because I've been teaching this for decades, and I've been taking religiously medicinal mushrooms virtually every day, right? And I like to vary them, and you know, sometimes I take it as a tincture, sometimes I take it as a capsule, and so forth. And sometimes I do a couple of weeks of reishi, and then I switch to other ones. So have fun, play with that, but I can't stress it enough. Get right into that straight away. And as we say, you'll be the last person standing, guys. So will your children. These are very, very good for children. You know, if you start to get into the longevity diet and start to add in these tonic formulas, your children will thrive. They won't have to deal with all of these, you know, that's carry on with, you know, these viruses going around from time to time. So on one hand, you've got the medicinal mushrooms. Now, on the other hand, as your standard earthing, grounding, number one protocol is astragalus. And astragalus is absolutely phenomenal. Now, we use astragalus. Here's the astragalus root. You can buy that from Chinatown, doesn't cost much, and that's what we use in our tonic stocks. I always say that the secret to longevity is in the stock, and I really mean that. I don't have time to go into details. That's the sort of thing that you learn in our academy. But at least get the astragalus root and start to put that into your bone broth stocks, or add some seaweeds into it, into your vegetable stocks. In Chinese medicine, for 6,000 years, astragalus has been used to strengthen the yang of the body, the upright energy of the body, the posture of the body, and it's kind of like the #1 herb for this concept of the Wei Qi. You'll see it spelt there on the presentation, W-E-I. And think of the Wei Qi as an active yang energy that circulates and protects you from colds and flus and viruses and negative people and all sorts of things. Now, here's the trick. Astragaloside 4 is an extraction out of astragalus. So you've got astragalus, which is very accessible, very cheap to use, not expensive. And then they've looked at why is astragalus so effective? And they've discovered the astragalosides. There's several of them, but the main one is astragaloside 4. And there's been some wonderful formulas developed with getting astragaloside 4. And Ron Tiergarten has done some of them with his Super Pill 2, etc. You can get astragaloside 4 off the internet. The trick is don't take it by itself, take it with astragalus, because that's the way, that synergetic relationship, they need it to work off one another. But the missing ingredient that everybody doesn't really know about is that there's another extraction out of this, and it's called psychoestrogenol. And psychoestrogenol is it's like 400 times more bioavailable than astragaloside 4. So the complete supercharged nourishment for your immune system is this whole spectrum of the astragaloside. So you've got the basic astragaloside, the astragalus, the root, and you can buy that as a formula, only costs $10. Astragaloside 4, well, that costs about $40. And then cycloestrogenol, it takes a lot to extract that. It is more expensive. It costs around $100. That's something that we started to look in here. Full disclosure, my business partner, Rex, who's actually a rocket scientist as well, and a smart as a profession, we developed this from the research that other companies did, but that was super expensive, and we wanted to make it more available and bioavailable. So we did tweak the formula to make it bioavailable. Now you can read up on cycloestrogenol on tellostep.com. And so that's your astragalus side story, very, very important. Medicinal mushrooms and astragalus. So there's your cycloestrogenol, folks. We've got a little bit of stock left. More importantly at this stage, go to the website and read up. There's a good section I've put up there, I've written about it and read all the research that's done around this. This is like one of the #1 longevity. You've got to look after your telomeres. So the cycloestrogenol is a telomerase enhancer. Now you finally probably started to hear about the telomeres. And I've been researching that over 10 years now. And nobody, you say that word 10 years ago, and people would go, what are you talking about? But people have finally it started to filter down now into common language. And people are starting to understand that there are these little tentacles at the end of the chromosomes. Now, you've got to keep them healthy and lengthened to actually have a good, functioning, strong, adaptive immune system. Because the more they shorten, the more prone you're going to get to illnesses. And that's virtually, that is a clinical fact as far as the length of your telomeres. The substances that trigger the telomerase, well, I would say cycloestrogenol, but then there's other things that at least slow it down. Things like milk thistle and fish oil, and so there's a number of other things. And the astragaloside 4, right? So far, in what I've researched, the only one that's triggering the telomerase to actually repair is the cycloestrogenol. So that will keep your B and T cells activated and will fight off infection as well. Moving on. So, you know, the astragalus and elderberry syrup, you know, that's actually, a lot of people know about that, and it's an absolute classic, and it's absolutely fantastic. You know, elderberry has been in the Western herbalism tradition for, you know, thousands of years. I've mentioned this herb, Blueblarium. This is the herb that they're starting to work with a lot in China. And it's very, very good for killing viruses associated with the respiratory system. Now, there's some other herbs here mentioned that you can read up this chart. You can see that even good old green tea and the fermented pu'er tea, ivy syrup tea, olive leaf extract, sistanchi is a tonic herb that we use, and it's very, very good to stimulate the immune system in the elderly. It's a herb that grows pretty much in more of a desert environment. It's got some very, very yang. It's a yang jing tonic. So very, very strengthening, you know, to the overall yang of the body, the immune system, but very, very good for elderly people with any kind of chronic immune disease going on. Readily available, easy to get hold of. Good old probiotics. Don't forget, for instance, apple cider and vinegars are actually used in China. A lot of practitioners protect themselves by actually putting a little bit of vinegar under their nostrils and breathing that in, because it's actually antiviral and so forth. So on a practical level, even apple cider is very good, very good. Now, we love using things like umeboshi vinegar. It's an absolute tank that goes through the body and just knocks out viruses left, right, and center. And we use these sort of things a couple of times a week. Obviously important to get things like fulvic mineral ions back into your body. Now, I'd like to talk here briefly about Bravo yogurt. This was developed by, I've met Dr. Marco Rugliero, who's a wonderful person, incredible medical researcher, over 200 medical papers, and he was the guy that formulated Bravo yogurt. This is available through websites like Mars Venus with Dr. John Gray. It's a yogurt that you make yourself. You have to get a nice sort of organic milk and make the yogurt overnight. So I'm not going to go into those details, except highly recommending it. This is amazing. This has brought people back to life. Parents with autistic children, they swear by it. This bringing them back to, you know, center. It's got like over 82 strains, highly integrated. It's a phenomenal formula. So that's the Bravo yogurt. And he went on to then develop what's called the Immortalis Klotho formula, which took that to the next level. Klotho is the #1 hormone that you're generated out of the kidneys for your longevity. Now that's interesting, because in Chinese medicine, we've always said that the health of your kidneys, the gene of your kidneys, of course, is your longevity. And here we have now the hormonal proof that Klotho, the #1 hormonal longevity in your body, is generated out of the kidneys. And you can't inject this, you can't take it. You've got to get the intelligence of your microbiome back to start to produce it again. And his Immortalis Klotho formula is now available. The price has come down. You can go to the academyhealingnutrition.com and look at the 120 Plus Club up on the website, where it takes you through a little bit more of that information. You can always email me if you want to know about the Immortalis Klotho formula. But I highly recommend you get started on the Bravo. Bravo is very reasonably priced, and you can get started with that, and it's phenomenal for re-energizing that microbiome. Now, looking at some of the other products. So as a review, remember we're talking about, you know, soups and broths and getting your seaweeds back in there, avoiding all the sugars and toxic food, and just forget it. and then recharging your immune system with reishi and chaga, and getting into the astragalus and the astragaloside family. NAC, N-A-C, it's a supplement that you can get, very readily available, and it is fantastic. In a nutshell, I recommend this to, for instance, when children have got the sniffles and they're getting all this damp and flu in their chest. It's remarkable. It just resolves damp conditions, what we call in Chinese medicine damp conditions. So this is actually very, very good for the COVID-19 signs and symptoms. Or if you've currently got a damp condition, then it's important that you start to resolve that damp. Otherwise, you're a bit of a contender for the COVID virus, because remember in my introduction, they kind of like you, and they're going to be hanging out on you, and they'll be partying, you know, and reproducing, you know. And so you want to kind of clear that any damp out of the system. So we always talk about poor quality dairy food. You know, we work from all of the food groups, and we talk about high quality dairy foods, and some constitutions work with that and conditions work with that and others don't. But the poor quality ones you pretty much want to avoid like the plague. You know, the casein is very, very hard to digest. It's quite toxic to the liver and so forth, right? And there's some damp draining foods. Now, a lot of those herbs and spices and the pungent foods are very, very good for getting dampness out of the body as well. So NAC, I highly recommend that. There's brewer's yeast. There's, as you know, there's the bee products. They're absolutely wonderful. And a good old raw honey is incredible, technically kind of like a probiotic. Lactoferrin, there's a lot of great results, clinical results from lactoferrin. Very, very interesting. You can do your own research for that, follow it up, but take note of it. There's a lot of good results coming out with that. Moving on, yes, taking your vitamin C, you know, in the liposomal, like, you know, the sunflower oil, etc., it makes it more absorbable. So I do recommend that. There is the doctor, I get some things from Dr. Thomas Cowan, Cosmic Heart, Healthy Heart. If you were to Google Thomas, C-O-W-A-N, I like his megadose vitamin C. He's got some other wonderful products there. And vitamin D, of course. The good thing about the Pravo yogurt is it actually starts to generate what's called GC-MAF, GC-MAF. If you Google that, you'll start to see it's this remarkable protein that binds with the vitamin D in the body, and basically it's very, very like an anti-cancer protocol. Now, so you might want to up your vitamin D currently, and make sure you're getting good supply of vitamin E. Now, the thing about vitamin E is, and like the membrane of our cells, the membrane of our cells basically, in a nutshell, goes like this. You need high quality fats and oils. Forget the vegetable oils, you need those traditional oils. And that starts to be the, you know, the membrane for the cell. The other membrane, and that's where the vitamin E comes in. Now, this vitamin E from Designs with Health is a remarkable vitamin E. They've made it more bioavailable. It's going to get into the cells a lot better. It's going to do its thing a lot better. So you can research that. I highly recommend it. It's something that I'm taking now twice a day. I highly recommend that. Now, melatonin, getting sleep is very, very important for your immune system. It's where it can retrain itself and re-energize itself and sort things out at night in its yin phase. If you're having sleep problems, you know, I do recommend melatonin. It doesn't work for everybody, but it has virtually no side effect. You need to generate it anyway. And the interesting thing here is the most recent clinical research. This was mentioned by Dr. Thomas Cohen, that this research coming out is it's okay to sort of mega dose with melatonin. So some people only take 3 milligrams or 5. Well, I've been experimenting with taking 10 and 20 and sometimes 30, and it's fine. The idea is you use this with traveling, you use this with sleep problems. I'm kind of in and out of it because of travel and jet lag and all of that. I don't have to use it every day. But what I'm saying is if you currently have sleeping problems, then get into your melatonin or get into any of the other herbal remedies for sleep. Don't take any sleep, don't take the sleep pills, right? It's a clinical fact that if you're taking the pharmaceutical sleeping pills, your life shortens, right? So get into all the natural ones. And you might have heard of NAD. That's quite a well-known supplement now. It's been coming out on the marketplace. You can get the patches, you can get it intravenously, you can take it as a supplement. The MN, when you put that into, with your Bravo yogurt as a smoothie, and that is a wonderful way of taking your NMN. Now the CoQ10, another immune enhancer, because now we're actually, see the thing with NAD and vitamin E and CoQ10, we're starting to really talk about the mitochondria. And the mitochondria is the energy aspects of the cell and getting that working really well. That, of course, if that gets corrupted, that's where basically viruses are generated in the first place. They spill out as corrupted RNA and DNA, and then they start to play havoc, in a way. So you want to be working on your mitochondria. So CoQ10 is well known for that. Now, I've discovered a company, you'll see it here, MOTOQ, and they have a remarkable CoQ10. I wouldn't bother buying the ordinary stuff off the shelf anymore. That's just a remarkable. Do your research, read up on it, look at the clinical results that they've been talking about. It's very, very interesting. And of course, zinc. Well, in our longevity diet, there's a lot of things that we're secure in that maybe we don't have to take as a supplement because we're taking things like seaweeds on a regular basis, full of all the minerals and trace minerals and so forth. But it has been, if you've got a compromised immune system, then yes, selenium and zinc, very, very good. Now, we learned things like ginger compresses over the kidneys in our barefoot doctor training. There's some other things here mentioned, like the natural essential oils, like peppermint, tea tree oil. Now, aromatherapy is just absolutely wonderful, and you should, quite frankly, be having your frankincense and your myrrh and your tea tree, because you never know who's going to be visiting you at home, and it keeps the whole environment clear. If you're still working in a shop and having to deal with customers, I would have this aromatherapy going all the time. So it's interesting for us, we go to the supermarket and all this toilet paper's gone, but we're not going there for that. We're going there for what? The frankincense and the aromatherapy and the tea tree oil, right? So that's still all readily available. I highly recommend that you get into the aromatherapies for your home, and then also to put onto your body. And, get an empty bottle, spray bottle, fill it with a bottle of water, and then put a couple of drops of, tea tree and galangalanga and, a few other things, shake it up, and actually spray your bed with it after in the morning, open up your bed so that it can air, and then spray all of that, because in actual fact, we actually, as you know, discharge quite a lot off our skin and so forth. So it's a really, really good clearing agent for the hygiene of the bedroom. So I highly recommend that. Now, colloidal silver, just wonderful track record for antiviral, people with Lyme's disease. They've been using that quite a bit. So you can get into that. You can also get silver as dispersing in your aromatherapy as well. So I do recommend that. There's a lot of good anecdotal reports about using things like colloidal silver and so forth. Thieves is a classic aromatherapy, and the story goes, as you can read here, is the guys in the plague who would go around and you know, they would rob the dead and they never got sick. And the magistrate asked them once, you know, how come you guys don't get sick? And they said, it's the oils that we put on and they protect us. And so that formula is called Thieves. It does come under different brand names now, but it's these kind of combinations of wonderful aromatherapy. So get onto your, you know, your provider there and buy some and get it onto your body, get it into your house, get it into your business area and into your office. Really, really good to have. Okay, we could be running out of time here, so we'll just keep going very, very quickly. Obviously, if you're always feeling fearful, anxiety, stressed out about all of this, then very, very important to, you know, clear your channels, get yourself centered again. There are some great things, you know, around for that. Relora is really, really good. You can do your own research. Very, very good for calming and centering and de-stressing, and it's a bit of an adaptogenic. It's a combination of two herbs coming together. It is like a little formula there, two herbs coming together. Very, very good. And there's other things that you can be looking at that's often pushed aside, but it's probably really should be one of your fundamental protocols, along with your medicinal mushrooms and astragalus and so forth, and your tonic diet, and that is good old hydrogen and hydrogen generated water and structured water. Your cells have got a membrane of structured water, and that's basically, you know, your radio, your telephone to the cosmic universe. And yeah, and I'm actually being you know, serious here. And so, you know, you need to purify your water. Now, not everybody can afford the structured water, and there's questions about how long it lasts and all of that. But what you can do is filter your water. That's very, very important. And then just at least put a spiral into it with a wooden spoon, and you've started to recalibrate that water, giving it some chi, some memory, and to restructure and to get the redox factor happening and make it more hydrating into the body. Just remember, hydrogen is the #1 antioxidant. It's the smallest molecule in the universe, and it's an incredible free radical scavenger. So yes, you can easily get your hydrogen generated water these days. Ozone, if you've got anybody with serious symptoms around this, then ozone is absolutely phenomenal. You can actually buy ozone units now for your home, but there are clinics set up all around the world that you can get into the ozone treatments. And I highly recommend that if anybody's starting to get any serious signs and symptoms from this, or any other kind of similar kind of signs and symptoms, ozone has just got an incredible track history. Okay, we're running short of time, so very quickly, we're near towards the end of the presentation. You know, in terms of lifestyle, it is questionable about all these electromagnetic fields, and now we have to deal with the 5G, and it's not going to stop, is it? Right? Let's face it. So it's even more vitally important now that you have these strategies in place, and of course the immune system to deal with all of this. There are, you know, technologies around. We do have the QUANTAPHI and the THERAPHI on the market, full disclosure. Some of you know I've been involved with Paul Harris and Dan Winter for many years, putting that on the market. We've had wonderful results with that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that next week in our webinar with some of these things and some of the sort of supportive technologies. But turn your Wi-Fi off, turn this little thing off at night, get rid of those signals, kind of try and just do your feng shui, clear your space, get some healthy plants in, And there are a lot of sort of interesting technologies to start to safeguard yourself from all of the, you know, the intensity of the electromagnetic fields of 5G, which is just around the corner. So here's our QUANTAPHI. This is pretty much the last slide. So the THERAPHI.tech website, you'll see at the bottom of the slide, you can read up about electromagnetic healing over the last 100 years from Nikola Tesla. The trick is to get the dynamic of what's called neg entropy. So you know yin and yang. Yin and yang is what? Centrifugal and centripetal. Centrifugal is decaying, loosening, dispersing, and that's your entropy that you learned in your science class. Whereas centripetal is the opposite. It's order, coherence, etc. And that, of course, is what you need for longevity. You need less of that and more of this. That's basically what keeps this body together. So this generates a neg entropy field. It generates the sort of a coherence again in the body's voltage. And of course, that's going to strengthen the cell memory to be healthy, which will strengthen the immune system. So you can read up on that. There are various THERAPHI centers around. And then the QUANTAPHI is the latest one on the market, where it's a little bit more cheaper than the THERAPHI. The THERAPHI is you know, you have sessions in it. Whereas the QUANTAPHI is a space enhancer, and it actually entrains your body. It strengthens your body with frequencies and a plasmic vibrational cloud that actually protects you from the 5G and the Wi-Fi and so forth. It won't totally block it out. That's impossible, but it protects you. So thanks for your attention. I can't see the questions on my screen, but I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to be handing this over to our wonderful Patricia. There we go.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Thank you so much, Roger. Let me now share my screen. Roger, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. So let me try and share my screen. And let's see. So I don't think participants can see my video, or my voice rather. Let's see. Okay, we'll get on with this anyhow.
Yeah, it came up briefly then.
Yeah, you can see it, right?
Well, not yet. We're still seeing my last slide.
Okay. I think, okay, there we are. So I don't think participants can see my face. I think your face is still showing up, but anyhow, I think I'm heard, which is what matters, at least for now. Let me just try one more time. Let's see. Oops, these are the questions.
Share screen, yeah?
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. So anyhow, I'm going to try and put play in this little video that I have for you guys, but despite you not being able to see me speaking, hopefully you can hear me. And basically, you know, wow, there's just so much information that you know we shared with you guys. Basically, just showing, you know, in the light of everything that's happening and all the focus on everything that we can't do, and you know all the fear that's involved, obviously, in this very, you know, very difficult time for a lot of us who have vulnerable family that we were worried about, or, you know, just even with our day-to-day and how this is going to affect so many other things. You know, what a beautiful thing to be able to focus on everything that we are able to do, you know, all these different natural remedies, supplements, just how food can help support our immunity, how, you know, our lifestyle, our mindset. So, you know, that's at the heart of Academy, right? We've been doing this training for, well, Roger has been leading it for 35 years. You know, I obviously as a student before, and now as running our London offering. that is the point, right? To get back to this idea that we are able to transform our health, we are able to take charge, and there is, a lot of natural and approachable and accessible ways to really start and experience that transformation, right? So with that said, I think now more than ever is such an important time to be able to really understand that this power of food as medicine, right? And this power of how all these herbs and natural remedies and lifestyle and all these holistic approaches to our well-being can serve us for not only our own health, but more importantly, because Academy offers this professional training really that enables everyone in our curriculum to practice as health coaches and go do other things that serve others. What a beautiful time right now to really start to learn in depth all that is available to us and be able to offer it to others. So we have a quick teaser video that I'm going to share with you guys, and hopefully it plays and you guys can see it. It kind of brings to light what Academy does. So you'll see hopefully the amount of practical elements that we have in our course, in the sense of going to Chinatown, or going to looking at all the different herbs that we have access to, teaching you how to make kanjis, how to make elixirs, how to make all these really amazing stocks that we mentioned. There is this this idea that really your health goes from a stock to a stock, like Roger said, right? And we can cook with the herbs. There's so much that we can do in terms of our own kitchen pharmacy. So that was a bit of a teaser of of how we go about doing that, and it is of this very important aspect of community, right? So it is this idea that, especially nowadays, or not nowadays, now, when we are all, being left, at home and having to, be cautious about our surroundings and whatnot, that we are able to truly connect with others that are passionate about healing, about food as medicine, and truly have a family to help you through this time as you learn in a collective, right? So that was just my little video. So I'm just gonna go and see if I can. There I am. Hi guys. So I was talking and you weren't able to see me, but it's nice that we can connect. So you probably saw that little clip that I mentioned. I'm gonna go and now try and share the screen again to show you a bit more of the curriculum. So our curriculum and our training does start this Saturday in London, in October in New York. But when we look at what this course enables you to do right now, firstly, it really enables you to start that dialogue with yourself, with your own body, and tap into that potential of your inner wisdom and your inner healer, and learn all that you have at the disposal. There's a lot of focus, like I mentioned before, of all the things that we can't do, but there's a lot that we can do. There's a lot that's accessible to us. So our graduates go on to coach clients, they do cooking demonstrations, they host workshops, they set up blogs, they lead food shop tours, enhance their current careers. We have a lot of nutritional therapists or Pilates instructors or, mindfulness coaches come to us. They can consult for wellness businesses, launch a business. There's a lot of things that our graduates go on to do. And I wanted to put that first because right now, like I mentioned, there is this awakening of wow, how fragile our health can be, and how disempowering it is to know that hospitals are going to be at capacity, and no one can take care of me in a way, but we come to this realization that we can take care of ourselves, and with that learning, we are able to offer that to others. And there's so much opportunity, especially now, because people are going to wake up after this is over and really start to think, okay, how can I, moving forwards, be more proactive and take those steps that are going to help me recover my well-being, so that next time around, you know, I have a stronger immune system, so that I have, you know, sort of this vitality, you know. And our graduates go on to do just that. So it is this really important time to be able to support not only our health, but also the purpose that involves the invitation to support others in future. So yeah, well, typically our students come to us when they want to restore their own health, and a lot of our students are in perfect health, but they want to deepen their knowledge because they want to help others, you know, recover and prevent disease. But also we want a better form of healthcare that starts with us. We're not saying that there isn't a place for the medical community. There absolutely is, but there is such power that we have within us as well. And the idea is that we can help others really live healthier and more fulfilling lives. And when you look at, you know, what our graduates are up to, I'm going to start with that. I'm going to be very brief, but just, you know, give you some ideas, because right now all that we can see is sort of what's not possible, and, you know, what's going to happen, and, you know, what am I going to do, and investing in education and in this time. But, you know, there's never been a better time to not abandon ourselves and our passion and our really our purpose in helping others, right? So for example, Nikki, who graduated in New York, she runs a wellness center with infrared sauna, and she has her own clients. Flora, who's a nutritional therapist in London, she took our course, and, you know, she was really able to enhance her practice, you know, and she said it's a must for any healthcare professional. So it is that add-on that you get from our holistic approach. We had Kelsey, who was a life coach, and, you know, she also added those elements to the curriculum in terms of being able to support not only her clients in that coaching way, but in the diet as well. And we had Katie, who launched a business and soup delivery businesses. We have our beautiful Eden, who works, she's the magic behind Academy marketing, and she's now helping other brands, other wellness brands with their marketing. And, you know, she came from that point of being able to not only understand her healing journey, but, you know, what she said in the testimony, she asked, you know, what the question was, what do you do? How do you structure your life so that it's in tune with your truth? And I think that's really what our curriculum is about. So yeah, in terms of, and oh, there is Eden. I think you didn't see her before. In terms of, you know, what our curriculum entails, I'm going to take you through all the different modules so you have an idea. We are answering all questions at the end, so do bear with us. And again, we will send the recording and the slides for those of you that wanted those content bits. But basically, one of our modules, or one of our introductory modules that actually starts this Saturday, is the longevity diet principles and Chinese medicine principles. So this is taught by Roger. So we go into this idea of the 5 elements theory, the longevity diet, food energetics. And in London, we are starting this weekend on Zoom. So kind of like today, we're going to have Roger on screen. All our students are going to be sharing via video conferencing. So, you know, doing it in the safety of our homes and being respectful of the government guidelines, so we can support sort of the stopping and the spreading of this virus, but that we don't stop our lives, that we really get together and start to get creative in how we are working in community. So in this weekend, we're going to all be at home, but very much connected in soul and spirit and in video, and, you know, starting to discuss that. So just because, you know, this pandemic is going on doesn't mean that we're not going to continue the course. Of anything, we are more than ever committed to starting this weekend, because we, like I mentioned, we really believe in the power of this. So one of our first modules is around that. Then we go into cooking with a longevity diet. So Inga, she's one of our key instructors. She graduated from Academy about 12 years ago, I think by now. And then she went on to pursue further certificates and diplomas. And she is, you know, a master in self-healing. She overcame Lyme's disease, and, you know, she has a wealth of knowledge in both cooking, but then also in herbs. So with her, when we're cooking, we learn about, yes, the digestions, the major pathologies, but then we learn about preparation, which is really important. We talked about the different, you know, things to avoid, but then we also tell you, okay, what are the best type of grains, the best type of salt, the best type of sweeteners, and then how do we prepare that? We teach you how to soak your how to how to soak your grains. We teach you how to make fermented vegetables, how to make broths, you know, so it's really, you know, that hands-on experience. And granted, right now in London, this is going to be, again, via Zoom, but then as soon as we're able to get out and be in community and in physical form, we will be exploring all these dishes and cooking together. But in the meanwhile, we're very much honored to those students who have already joined us. You know, our class is pretty much full. We only have a few spots left to continue cooking at our homes, you know, and connecting it that way. So these are a couple of things that we do, some water kefir, some porridge, some miso soup. So you get hundreds of recipes with the curriculum. Then we also teach you how to cook with the tonic herbs. So you saw astragalus, you saw all the different medicinal mushrooms. So we then teach you how to make juks and really how to start to implement this into your cooking. And this is taught by Nam Singh, who's an amazing a faculty member. He's a Taoist priest, and he's a practicer of all the 8 limbs of traditional Chinese medicine, so acupuncture and feng shui and meditation. He knows, he's a mastermind, as are Inga and Roger, really. I'm constantly learning from them. And in this instance, you get to understand this idea of energetic and tonic cooking. These are some of the dishes that we make with Nam Singh, you know, and we, like I said, we go to Chinatown and we're able to really experience the, you know, going to the shops and seeing how accessible these things are. And again, the tour part and sort of this practical element is going to be later in the year, but we are very much starting with all the elements as of this weekend. The Barefoot Doctor Weekend, you know, Roger talked a lot about all the natural remedies that you can pursue in this time, and the curriculum has probably 300 remedies, if not more, that are at your disposal. And you learn how to use them, but you also learn mind and relaxation techniques. You learn about body work, so a couple of acupressure points. You learn about shiatsu massage. So you really get to understand, okay, not only do I want to be eating well and having all these tonic herbs and, you know, all these dietary principles in a way, you also want to be looking after your well-being when you're unwell in a natural way. You also want to be looking after your mind and body throughout the entire time. We actually say, you know, the main point of the curriculum really is that you are able to start that inner dialogue, start to really listen to your body and start to fully understand how you can get those signs that your body is telling you. And when you are truly connected in your body and starting to practice these mindfulness techniques and these grounding techniques, that you are able to achieve that. We talked a lot about the medicinal mushrooms, about all the tonic herbs. We have a full module that discusses that. That's led by Inga. Inga's, you know, also now an herbalist. She also trained with, we mentioned the man behind Dragon Herbs, so she's trained with him. And we talk about all these beautiful herbs, but then also how they are each going to serve you, be it in what we call the three treasures in Chinese medicine. So your Jing, your Qi, or your Shen. So how these herbs are going to serve each of those elements of your life. We talk about all the different superfoods and adaptogens, and we make some really beautiful elixirs. So you have a lot of experience, you know, by being taught how to make them, but you also get to, you know, experience a lot of recipes. So you're guided in terms of how you can use that in your own business moving forward, or in the first instance with yourself. And, you know, there was, like I mentioned, there's such power in things like reishi and astragalus, and you have really creative ways to leverage that in our curriculum. Then we also discussed this idea of Oriental health diagnosis or assessment, really. So it's this understanding, you know, that there is this whole body approach, you know, where we want to really look at not just, you know, a neurologist for, you know, the migraines, and the gastroenterologist for, you know, digestive issues, that the body is really connected. And in the Eastern arts, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, we see it, the whole system as a whole. And there are ways where we can start to, you know, be a bit of detectives and see, okay, maybe underneath my eyes, I have dark circles under my eyes. Is that perhaps signaling something with my kidneys? So we start to really understand how to look at assessment in a different way, and how to, again, go to the root cause rather than just treat symptoms, right? Just especially for me, when I was dealing with migraines, you know, that was the main thing. I was treating the symptoms, taking prescription medicine, cutting off what my body was trying to tell me, which was, I need rest, I'm too tired. Rather than going to the root, which I ended up finding out later through academy, my digestive system really needed a reset. And when I started to work on my digestive system, that's when my migraine started to, like, significantly lessen. So it's, again, that idea of being able to look at health in a different way, not just in a separate and isolated format. We also have a focus on Ayurveda, so you'll get an introduction on Ayurveda, the different doshas, food combining. Robert Sachs is one of our instructors here for the online modules. This is always completed online here in London, and you get to hear from someone who, you know, has several years in Ayurvedic training, and he has not only in sort of the food combination and sort of the dietary aspect, but this very mind, body, spirit approach. And he's been a guest lecturer at the Chopra Center. He's been in several talk shows and health magazines and whatnot. So I guess that goes across the board. Our instructors are incredibly knowledgeable. We also talk about sort of a paradigm for health, healing and healthcare, which is, you know, so important right now, to rethink the system and to see how we can start to really tackle things like the problems that Roger mentioned around when farming is really putting so much pesticides in our food, and the impact that that has, and, you know, the impact on the planet, and in terms of all our actions. Actually, you know, I think probably a lot of you in our community have been following sort of the beautiful things that have been happening now in terms of our planet, you know, and its recovery in a way, the lack of air pollution through all the planes that are not flying, and how in Venice there's apparently not dolphins because the canals are so clear. So all these things, we are very much not only talking about our health in this curriculum, we understand the health of the collective, the health of the planet, because at the end of the day, we're always linking everything together. So Bill is one of our instructors who really teaches us about that. He also comes from a macrobiotic background, so he is very much very well versed in how to approach that. And lastly, you know, we have a module that's around building your business, and this is taught by Inga. So how do this training sometimes attracts only people for the personal interest at first, and then they later discover that they're actually very profoundly moved and they're gonna do this as a actual career change. But many of our students get the support to launch a business, to start their health coaching practice, to start, you know, that blog, to start that workshop, to start, you know, cooking for clients. So you have this support in that business module, but then you also have some support in terms of throughout the entire program. You are going to be required to do a couple of things to get your certificate. So you create a template that you can use for seeing clients. You're able to have 2 case studies where you're able to really see what it feels like to coach clients. You know, sometimes you can be very nervous and say, oh, I don't know anything, how's it going to work? But actually we know so much, and especially the training gives you so much material beyond just the modules that I described and sort of all the elements. You get a 500-page workbook that is accessible online for life. You get 2 private mentoring sessions with our instructor that's going to help you in your case studies with clients. This is Inga who leads those sessions, and you're also going to have an independent student project where you're going to come up with something creative or something, a paper or something that's going to help you start offering what the world so much needs right now, and that you specifically have in your unique essence in terms of offering healing to others. So in that form, when you, as soon as you graduate and get your certificate, you're going to be ready to practice, right? And you get those 2 mentoring sessions to help you, you know, really build what that looks like. And you know, like I mentioned, here in London, our curriculum starts this weekend. We have about, I think, two or three spots open for those of you that are ready to make the leap. But basically, all you need to practice as a health coach here in the UK is insurance, and we have an insurance that covers us, the holistic health insurance. The training in New York does start in October. But beyond all those elements that you get, I think the biggest thing that you get from Academy is the sense of community. There's, you know, it's such a beautiful family, and I'm always so grateful to have this community of students and faculty. We are very tight knit, you know, we aren't this massive institution that, you know, has a bunch of people that you're going to be dealing with. You deal with me, you deal with Roger, you know, you deal with Inga, and it is this community that, especially now, and especially now when we're starting in London and in the time that we're starting, we are going to be very close. We're going to be talking on video conference. We have a Facebook community where we're going to be engaging on all the time. We have sort of this this ability to take this time where everyone's slowing down, where people are going to be at home more, where people are, you know, are going to be taking a simpler route. And, you know, what a beautiful invitation to take that time to deepen your studies in something that transforms your health, but also gives you the gift to help others. So I'm very, very excited about starting this weekend and really bonding with our cohort that is going to really be committed to this broader purpose. So we're closing off now, and we'll be answering questions in just the next minute. But just to give you a bit of an overview in terms of our class, class cost and discount. So right now, we'll offer, for attending this webinar, you have an £150 discount. That means that the course itself, you have a deposit of 650 and then 12 payments of 317. Class does start this Saturday, so between tonight and tomorrow is your last chance to sign up. There's a £300 discount if you pay in full, or you sign up with a friend or a family member. So if you have any questions, email hello@academyhealingnutrition.com to sign up, or on our website at academyhealingnutrition.uk, and there is an apply section. But really, you know, are you ready for a fresh start? I always say that at the end of our presentations. There's never been a better time to take charge of our health and to commit to helping others, because my God, does the world need people who have this knowledge. Imagine if all of us, you know, had this knowledge at our disposal, and you know, the world knew how to take care of themselves through food, through supplements, through nature, through all these holistic approaches that we have at our disposal. You know, David's quote here says, joining Academy was the best decision he's made. But personally, for me, it changed my life. If I hadn't pursued this curriculum, I would still be, you know, taking tons of medication with chronic migraines and in a job that I thought was fulfilling. But little did I realize that true fulfillment comes when you're aligned with your true purpose. So by recovering my health and tuning into what I needed, right place, right time, I connected with Roger again, and now had this opportunity to open our branch here. And I am very, very excited to share this experience with as many of you as possible who are also eager to take that leap with me. So thank you, guys. I am going to now stop sharing and start answering some questions, but there are some bits of information there. So Roger, if you want to find him, he's on Facebook. Our London class, like I said, starts this Saturday. New York City in October, and there's a conference that Roger's leading in West Canada. So now, questions. So, whoa.
Hey, so did you, I've got the questions up. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
So you just scroll through. I'm just starting from the top, and hi everybody, hi. What is the Chinese name for Vertigo Max? I don't know it. It's a Chinese name. It might be mentioned. I don't think it's mentioned up on his website. it's just what we go by, you know, here. I might have it written down somewhere, but I'm not too sure. What is in the Virgo Max? Letha, you'd have to look up their website, and you know, it's various. I mean, I think there's about a dozen herbs in there, so you'd have to look that up. Is it safe to take teas and tonics during pregnancy? Most of the time, yes. Not really an issue most of the time, especially what we call the tonic herbs, and that's, you're going to make a very strong baby with a strong constitution, with strong bones, and it will help your, you know, usually the focus during pregnancy is on the kidneys, because in Chinese medicine it rules pregnancy and fertility and all sorts of things. So we have some very good broths and soups and compresses and tonic herbs to you know, strengthen the pregnancy, and also some good herbs for issues around miscarriage. But generally, in answer to your question, that it's good, and it's very good to be taking these during pregnancy. Absolutely, it strengthens your immune system, your overall qi. There's certain teas and tonics that are good for building blood, because often there's the so-called blood deficiency during pregnancy, with, and then, you know, sleeping problems and morning sickness and all of that is generally from blood deficiency. So in answer to your question, go for it. And then just be aware that if there are some conditions coming up in pregnancy, you might want to stop the tonic herbs and go to a practitioner to get like a formula that's more suitable for you for that particular ailment. So just be aware of that. But if you're healthy, you're feeling good, yes, take the tonics, take the reishi, take the medicinal mushrooms, take the astragalus, take the Hoshu Wu, and all sorts of things. Moving on. And anything special about cloves? Well, you know, there's a number of things that I've mentioned there. You know, cloves and ginger and turmeric, and, you know, basically the herbs and spices, basically in a nutshell, always antiviral and antibacterial. So that's the main thing about cloves. And cloves are great to have as an aromatherapy as well, you know. So yes. From Laura, have you heard or know about the 4 da-da-da-da? Well, I don't, but it looks like it's got a coffee with lion's manes and sugar. Sounds great to me. There's lots of really good coffee beverages coming out with the blending of the medicinal mushrooms. Absolutely fantastic. Go for it.
Yeah, and I've played around with Four Sigmatic myself, and I'm quite fond of their products. So yeah, yeah, Laura, I would recommend it. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Ashley. Oh, Ashley, yes. I don't know if you're still there, Ashley, but thanks for that. I know, Ashley, and yes, it's human heart, cosmic heart. Ashley, you know what it's like when you're doing this. There's 1,000 things going on, and I messed up his wonderful book. And so that's Dr. Cohen's website, Fourfold Healing. And he's got some great, he's got a garden, and he makes some wonderful unusual vegetable powders that you can put into your elixirs and smoothies and so forth. And definitely worth getting onto his blog. I really enjoy reading his blog. How many pills and tincture mushrooms do you take daily with so many herbs on the market? You know, basically first of all, in our curriculum, we show you how to cook, and we've got some wonderful recipes that we want to teach you. And more importantly, we get you up to a level, and we're the only people in the West who can do this with our faculty. These are the only people that I've been in this game for decades. These are the only teachers that I know who can actually teach cooking with the Chinese herbs. Now, Nam Singh has got a remarkable background. He grew up in a Taoist monastery in Taiwan, and he knows these herbs and foods like the back of his hands. That's why we put on a Chinatown tour in London and New York, because we show you the economical way of how to do this into your teas, your broths, your soups, your congees, you know, all these incredible, wonderful, tasty dishes with the tonic herbs. So that's the first level, and that's very economical. The next level is to go to the tinctures and the capsules and so forth, and to always think about quality. So you, in a nutshell, you can be on and off with this. You know, sometimes I take several a day, a range of the astragalus and the telestep, of course, and then the medicinal mushrooms. And I might take that for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I might take 4 days off. You kind of always want your body to be questioning what's happening next. You want to keep your body like in suspense. So you can be sort of in and out of this. You can get intuitive about it. You can look for signs like maybe you've taken too much. You know, maybe you got like a little heat or a rash or something. It doesn't often happen, but you can. So in answer to your questions, you can basically take, you know, several of these kind of herbs and supplements a day as tinctures and capsules. But we really love training you from the ground up, getting you into the old-fashioned way of, you know, going to Chinatown, the herbs and the juks and the broths. That's the starting point for me. And then you'd actually, if you're doing a little bit more in cooking, you don't actually have to spend money on so much of the tinctures and supplements. I hope that answers your question, Amit. A question from Maria. What do you think about C60? Hello from Queensland. Hi, Maria. Fantastic. I have a module in our training called the supplements you need, and I actually do spend a whole weekend on all the cutting edge supplements for anti-aging and for blood sugar problems, you name it. And for those who don't know, C60, carbon 60 is like a buckyball, dodeca, cosa. Think of it as like a 60-sided. It's actually made up of pentagram and a hexagram. Cut a long story short, normally an antioxidant has kind of got like one side of interaction, you know, to knock out that radical, to grab its electron and all that. Carbon 60, it's very, very small, and it's got 60 sides that can interact, and it's small enough to also get into the mitochondria. So it's pretty damn good. It's carbon 60, and it's part of my protocol. It's part of the 120 plus club, you know, which we have in our curriculum. We're going to live well into 120 and over. So carbon 60 gets my tick of approval. Just one word of caution. Don't overdose with carbon 60. We don't know really about the dosage. So just do the appropriate one drop, you know, or a couple of drops or drop 4, and that's about it. I wouldn't overdose. I wouldn't take too much. You just don't know too much about it yet. Laura asks, I have been skeptical of Chinese fresh markets, wondering how we can endure the cleanliness of produce and so on. Well, Laura, I know you live in New York and you've got no problems. Chinatown is under the same hygienic qualities as all the other shops. So I don't think you've got any problem there in Australia, England, Europe. Shopping in Chinatown is absolutely fine. Earlier on, we talked about some of the wild food markets in China and out in rural China. And really their hygiene is just not up to standard. So Laura, I wouldn't worry about that at all. Besides, Laura, you've done the training. You've got a really, really good, intelligent, confident immune system, and it will deal with any little bug that might come your way. Is there any meetups in London? Are they on weekends and evenings? So, Patricia, there's a question from Megan.
Yeah, Megan. Yeah, hi, Megan. If you're still there, we spoke on Monday. Yeah, so basically, right now the training in London is going to start primarily in online Zoom type video conferencing, connecting as much as we can as a community in the beautiful technology that we have now. But as soon as this is behind us and we can hug in real life, we will be likely connecting over weekends. but likely also having some evening meetups. It's unclear, obviously, when we're all going to be able to run on the streets freely and you know, and not have sort of these social distancing and lockdown suggestions. But as soon as we're able to, we will schedule that. Megan, I think you mentioned you were going to be up north, not in London, but we will make sure that it's time that it's accessible for as many of our students. And actually something that, you know, we haven't mentioned is that, you know, the whole course is available online in general. It always has been. We're in London, we're modifying it so it's online, but live in the sense that, you know, Roger on Saturday will be sitting in New York and speaking to us much like today. So there is that sense of community and connection. But Amy, you were asking about combining the two programs. So yeah, absolutely, we can discuss that. And we can align with Roger on how that would work in terms of your participation in London afterwards. I think there's then a question from Miko.
Amy, if you live in the States, you can just get in contact with me. The thing is, there's a different schedule, and so London is starting now, so you can get involved with that. And then if you live, and then there's always 10 modules that students have to complete. We start running that whole program again in October in New York, and we're starting it now this March in London. And the modules are the same, so I can work out a scheduling for you. If you happen to be traveling to London, you'll be able to take in some of the live events there, perhaps. Otherwise, you know, you can start the training here in New York online, and then attend our in-house classes when they start in October. It's the same with London. We're starting with an online presence this weekend for various reasons, as you know. But then our in-house trainings in London will start, you know, where things start to clear up in a month's time, hopefully. But Patricia will be keeping everybody informed about that. So you can move between the two, but it's probably appropriate that you just contact me about getting started here in New York. Miko, Kakadu plums. Wow, Miko, that Kakadu. I used to run a cafe in Australia called the Wattlesea Deli, and it was based on Australian Aboriginal bush foods and whole food cooking. And so I haven't heard Kakadu plum for a long time. And it's an incredible source of vitamin C. Maybe my business partner, Vic Sherkoff, you know, the bush tucker man in Australia, I think maybe he's put that on the market. And yes, it's an incredible source of vitamin C. I highly recommend it. And plus, you're doing what we call in Taoism the Jiao, which is eating foods from your local energetic region, which is very, very appropriate. Question from Taylor: what tonic herbs would you stop taking if you have signs of the flu cold? All of them. You stop all of the tonic herbs. Because the whole thing about tonic herbs is it strengthens you internally, and it kind of generally drives things inside, so to speak. You know, it's the sort of, so it strengthens your bones, your chi, your blood, your organs. When you get the cold and the flu, you stop all of the tonic herbs, because then you need a different protocol. You need things that are going to basically up and out and release and disperse and perhaps even cool, etc. So you immediately stop all of the tonic herbs, and then if things get serious, you go to a Chinese doctor, acupuncture, Chinese herbalist, and you can get a particular formula that's suitable for your constitution and condition and age and other circumstances. You know? How long do you think this will last, Taylor? Is that the webinar? It looks like we might be coming to the end of the questions. How long will each webinar be? What happens if you can't make a meetup?
Yes, I think that's with regards to the London course, Megan. So our modules are typically, think of it as if they're live, they're Saturday and Sunday 9:30 to 5. So for example, that's the schedule that we're going to have this weekend, albeit not in physical person, but live on Zoom. So that's the general schedule. If you can't attend, if you ever can't attend a module, either in person when those in-person modules take, or sort of live online like this weekend, we have all the modules recorded, so you are able to look at them afterwards. And then if you can't attend that, you always have like I mentioned, all the course is available online. So you will always have that form of accessing the knowledge. And some students who, for example, couldn't come last year to a practical module, then come the following year as well. So there's a lot of flexibility in how you get the curriculum started. I remember when I signed up to Academy, I was about to move to London, and I almost didn't sign up because I said, oh, I'm going to miss this module or that module. But there is that flexibility, and it's about starting and learning. It doesn't have to be perfect. And right now, absolutely, if there's something that we're learning, is that things are going to be different, and it's not going to be perfect, or it's not going to be how we thought it would be. But it will very much be still this idea of committing to our learning, to our health, to our purpose, to helping others. I know a couple of our graduates are online, and as a reminder, you guys know this knowledge. You can start, even if it's in a really small way, sharing with your communities. Now is the time that people need to be connected. So again, it's going to be a flexible schedule. If you can't make it, you get a recording, you come back the next year. There is all sorts of ways for you to make sure you get all the content. And it is a journey, when you start with us this weekend, it's not like you graduate and that's the end of the education. It's actually something that you go on and, really come back to time and time again. I had one of my graduates be like, oh, I'm just looking at the recipe book again for natural remedies. I personally am like revisiting all of that content. So it is, you shouldn't get tied up on this idea of what if I miss. Like I promise you, we'll always support you in finding and ensuring that you have the content that you need. And yeah, Letha teaches an Ayurveda class in New York. So that is something that will be an option for London students. Absolutely. We'll see if we can get Letha over at some point as well.
We filmed my first class here in New York, and we'll be making that available to our London students as well as part of the Ayurvedic training. So they'll have both Robert Sachs and Letha.
Perfect. Mia didn't have a question so far, but wanted to show my gratitude. Thank you. Yeah, and we're very grateful for all of you for spending time with us. I know it's been 2 hours, but it's important information, right? And I feel honored that you guys have come and joined to learn about this and really come together. Although we are in all parts of the world, in New York and Australia and London, we're all going through this together. So what a beautiful thing to really come, at least virtually, together and find power in what's possible and what we can do, and distract from all the negative bits, saying everything that is going wrong. Let's focus on all the things that are right. A reading list on the website.
Last question there. No, we don't. Sorry, Amy, we don't have it on the website. Obviously, we have extensive course materials for our students, and we have a very good reading list and all sorts of resource material. We have what's called an online classroom. The website is very good for understanding what the training program is about and so forth. So sorry, we don't provide one reading list on the website. I'd like to thank everybody for your focused attention. It went a little bit longer, I think, than planned, but pretty much everybody kind of hanged in there. So thanks for that. And I'm looking forward to getting the training program starting in London this weekend. It's always exciting for Patricia and myself to get a whole new group of students together and take them through this flow of knowledge and wisdom and practical trainings. The practical trainings will that schedule will be released soon, but let's get started this weekend. I hope you get inspired and sign up, and I'm looking forward to meeting you guys. And those who are listening in from the good old US of A, you can always get in contact with me about the training program starting later in the year in October. So, well, it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from
me.
last words?
Yeah, thank you so much, Roger. You, as always, have so much knowledge and wealth to share, and we're really honored to have any second with you and get into your brain and see all the information that you have to share. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Like I said, our training starts this weekend. Email me hello@academyhunutrition.uk. Or go to our website, academyhunutrition.uk, and there is the apply button where you can come in and apply and join me. We will be in this together. You're not alone. And even if you're not joining our training, you'll hopefully be part of our newsletter. We do webinars, like Roger mentioned, he's going to be hosting another webinar next week in New York time. We have workshops. We always want to be supporting each other. Don't forget, you're not alone. There is a family behind Academy Heal Nutrition, and we so look forward to connecting with you all, and especially to all the students who are already signed up. And I see you guys still in the webinar. So excited to meet you guys in camera, but very soon, hopefully in the real flesh. So again, any questions, email me. I am always here for students, for calls, for anything really. So know that I'm very committed to starting and making sure that we all feel that sense of community and wholeness that is much needed today. And yeah, the last thing, again, if you're not starting our training, don't stop learning. Please continue to learn. Please continue to educate yourselves. There has never been a better time to do it. And the world needs people like you guys who are really believing in the power of food as medicine, natural healing, holistic health. There is a need for you. So don't forget that. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. I will send the recording and the slides tomorrow. Any questions, reach out to me for London, and to Roger for the US. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.